Hey everybody, welcome back to another video. Today's video is going to be a little bit different. Today I'm going to be reviewing my favorite commentaries on the book of Revelation. And I just want to specify and say that when I'm talking about best commentaries on book of Revelation, I don't necessarily mean most scholarly or most in-depth. I just mean most helpful, the ones that have been most helpful to me. And so we're going to start with When the Man Comes Around by Douglas Wilson. Now, When the Man Comes Around is a very short commentary. Like, this is probably about an inch thick, maybe even less. And the beautiful thing about this commentary is just how simple it is. I think that this is the most simple commentary that there is. So, for example, each chapter, let me try to flip to an actual chapter here. So, like chapter 4, he takes a passage. I'll zoom in here just a little bit so you can see. He takes a passage. After this I looked, and behold. And basically, within this passage, he then goes on to expound on it in very, very short, it's like less than a page before moving on to the next passage. And then another passage. So like each exposition of the passages are only about a page to a page and a half, making this like a very, very manageable, easy to read book. Now, Doug Wilson, he's a postmillennialist, and he's a preterist as well. And so this book is taken in a preterist perspective, speaking about the fall of Jerusalem in 70 AD. And so just beware if you're buying it that he is going to be expounding upon the text from a preterist standpoint. But when it comes to just overall readability, I think that this is the best commentary. I don't agree with every conclusion that he comes to within the book, but I do think that all around, this is a really solid introduction to the book of Revelation, and especially to the preterist framework, which I am a huge proponent of. So check this book out. I'm going to have links in the description to all of these as well. The next book that we got is Revelation, shorter commentary by G.K. Beale. Now, he has a full version of this book. It is absolutely massive, and it is extremely high-level scholarship. I recommend it. I think it's great, but I actually prefer the shorter commentary for especially lay people if you're not advanced in your understanding of Greek or Hebrew, or just not advanced in your theological studies, but want a solid commentary. The shorter one is going to be better for you. He kind of breaks up a lot of the really wordy sections and cuts out a bit of the minutia that might confuse. And so this is a phenomenal commentary. A lot more in-depth stuff. So here, he'll have the same thing like Wilson. He'll have a passage. My camera's not focusing for whatever reason, so I'll zoom back out. But he'll take a passage and he'll expound on it. But the exposition continues and continues until here. So you have at least 3, 4, sometimes even more, depending on the passage, sometimes up to 10 to 15 pages just expounding on a few verses. Now, the reason that I like Beale a lot is that he is not a preterist, he is an idealist. So he's an amillennial idealist, and the idealist takes Revelation to be basically a picture of the cosmic battle between good and evil throughout history. And the reason that I think Beale does such a good job is he addresses the other camps, preterism, futurism, historicism, and he shows how idealism in many ways is kind of a combination of all of those. And so he doesn't, in some idealist camps, they are extremely vague, where the beast is just, any world system ever throughout all of history with absolutely no reference to history. But Beale, he actually does address, here's how it would have been interpreted and understood by the generation that it was written to. And so he talks about Rome as the beast. He talks about the potential for Jerusalem to be the harlot. But so he has parts where he addresses, like, yes, those are good, but he also says that as preterists, that many preterists tend to limit what the text is speaking about, and he tries to elaborate in an idealist way how the descriptions of, say, the beast or the harlot should not be limited to the first century, but should be seen as having a greater application throughout history. So I really appreciate his connection and his faithfulness to history, while also showing the applicability of the text throughout church history, making it a little bit more relevant, I guess you could say, for readers today. So this is, I think, probably the best commentary on the book of Revelation, just period. I think it's just absolutely phenomenal. I've read it multiple times, and I think that this is one, if you're going to pick up any commentary on Revelation, I would pick this one up, as it will be very, very helpful. Now, the last one, and this is my top recommendation if you're going to get a commentary, this is the one to get. I know I just said to go get Beale's because it's the best one, but this one is very special, and I'm going to explain why. So this is written by Steve Gregg, and this commentary on Revelation is a commentary that includes preterism, historicism, futurism, and idealism. And so Steve Gregg, he went to great lengths to literally write out a commentary from each view of the book of Revelation, parallel running next to each other. And so this book just is absolutely amazing because for many people, they are very stuck in one view. I know for me growing up, that was dispensationalism. Other people, it might be something else. But when we have that one view, it can be very hard to even consider any other view besides that view. And so what Steve does in this book is he puts all the views next to each other so that a serious person who is desperately trying to understand Scripture is going to have access to all the great historic interpretations right next to each other. So I really, really like this book a lot. He really opens up the book well, too. He introduces the book of Revelation. He talks about the kind of book that it is. He talks about the datings. He talks about the historical setting. He talks about the evidence for a late date, the evidence for an early date, parallelism, Revelation's use of the rest of Scripture, the Old Testament specifically. He talks about images drawn from the life of Christ, images drawn from exile. So he just gives an incredible history. He talks about interpretive considerations, the differences in interpreting things like the coming of Christ, the millennium, the history of interpretation. He covers the early church, the Ante-Nicene Western Fathers, the Alexandrian Fathers, the development of historicism, the futurist approach, the contemporary conservative Protestant scene, the idealist approach, and then he analyzes each of the views before he even gets into the text. And so we're on page, 77 before we actually get into the book. Amazing, right? So as he goes through, I just want to find the beginning. So look, so here we go. Revelation chapter 4, verses 6 through 11. He puts them all out, and then right down here, he has the historicist commentary. He has the preterist commentary. He has the futurist commentary, and he has the idealist commentary. And they go onto the other page as well. So sometimes it can be a little confusing to read and then have to flip and continue to read in the column, but it's not that bad. And on top of just in writing out the commentary, he does include quotations from people who actually do hold the views. So, for example, here, as a matter of fact, he includes something from G.K. Beale, who we just looked at. And for the preterism, he includes David S. Clark. So he has a lot of professional theologians, and he includes their input in these views. So this isn't just his interpretation of how it's understood. He's actually using source material from those who espouse these views to create his commentary. But this is masterfully done because not only is it very comprehensive, it's a thick book, so be prepared, but not only is it comprehensive for the entire book of Revelation, on top of that, It is just so unbiased. I did not, at any point during this book, get a sense that he was trying to promote one view over the other. He was simply presenting each view. And I think that's really helpful, because I think a lot of times people present views in such a way that that really just says, this is the one view, and I'll present these other views, but don't listen to them, they're wrong. And it kind of leaves a bad taste in the mouth of many people. And so this is super refreshing to find a commentary that takes seriously all four of the historic views that interpret Revelation, while also being extremely unbiased in presentation, really leaving the reader to do his job, which is to determine which is most faithful to the text of Scripture. And so if you were to get one of these commentaries, I would start with this one, simply for the fact that it includes all the views that you could possibly want. And as you read this, it's going to really help formulate where you think you land when it comes to interpretation of the book of Revelation. And from there, you can then go into some of the more specialized books like Beale and Wilson, which will give you a more in-depth look at a very specific view once you're settled on it. But I find that if you were to get like the idealist book or the preterist perspective, it might already start to form a view that starts to reject the other views. And so start with this book so you can really consider which one is correct, and then from there dig a little bit deeper. So that's my review of the 3 best commentaries. This is the best one to start with, and then I would say this is just the greatest commentary all around, and Wilson's is just an excellent, simple introduction to preterism, which is the view that I hold. So that's my opinion. I hope this is helpful, and I will have the links for these books in the description below. Take care. Thanks for watching that video. If you like the work that I do, please consider becoming a patron for as little as $5 a month and signing up for my email newsletter. It's free. Both of those things can be found in the links below in the description. Thank you so much for watching.